we should say this is all incredibly unusual. I mean, it feels.
You think it's unusual for a sitting president of the United States to sue one of the major newspapers in this country for reporting that president was involved, perhaps, in pedophilia? You feel like that's unusual? Have you never read a presidential biography, Jodi?
Here we go.
Have I Got News for Your Ears, the spin-off of the hit CNN television program Have I Got News for You. We are expanding the Have I Got News for You cinematic universe because the news doesn't stop. It just keeps newsing. And so today we're going to look at some of the news, and then I'm going to talk to John Hodgman, who was a guest on Have I Got News for You, and I hope will be again. And if I sound at all irritated today, it's because Jim Biederman and Jodi Lennon, my producers / assistants / interns, have been making my life a living hell trying to get this stupid podcast up for your viewing and listening enjoyment. If you could see how I am situated right now, you would laugh at me and you would say, Michael, you're better than this. Hi, Jim. Hi, Jodi.
Hi, Michael.
Hi, Michael.
I'm not sure. Better than what?
Better than sitting in a fucking bathroom hallway in front of a linen closet with an ottoman perched on top of a side table. The whole thing is a Jenga tower. And if I was actually getting paid for this, I'd be like, oh, well worth it. Well worth it, Michael. But let's talk about the headlines. Let's talk about fucking Donald Trump. Let's go.
I just have one last thing to counter.
Yeah.
You know, you're complaining about being in the bathroom hallway.
Yeah.
All that stuff. But, you know, this is by your own making. You could be easily doing this from Savannah.
Yes, I could be, but as you know, and I look, I know you're an East Coast liberal. You live in a bubble. I don't. I'm out there among the people.
Yeah.
And so what you may not know, living in your New York City bubble, is that
my studio apartment in Hell's Kitchen, is that what you said?
That's what it looks like to me. Looks like a rent-controlled studio apartment in Hell's Kitchen that somebody in your family has had for the last 80 years or something, and that's how you got grandfathered in. So I'm assuming that you've never been below the Mason-Dixon line, Jim, both because you're a snob and because you're a Yankee carpetbagger. Although I guess the carpetbaggers, by definition, did go below the Mason-Dixon line.
They would have gone there, yeah.
That's right. But when I took my carpet bag to the South, what I didn't realize is it gets very hot in the summer. Nobody told me.
Oh, you didn't know that?
I didn't know. How was I supposed to know that?
I don't know. Everyone knows that. I thought everyone knew that.
I didn't know. And so after several years of living in Savannah, this summer, the wife and I decided to get a rental house in the Pocono Mountains, which is where I am right now. And just some trivia for all of the viewers and listeners, Poconos used to be known as the honeymoon capital of the world. I know you're going to say, but I thought that was Niagara Falls. So did I. Apparently not. According to the Poconos, the Poconos was the honeymoon capital of the world.
Could this be competing tourism boards, or do you think it's true?
It could very well be. I don't want to get into local politics. As I say, I'm an interloper here. I don't want to presume to speak to the locals like I know better just because I'm on television.
Michael, let's just get into it.
Fine.
A lot of news.
Yeah, if anything, the news is going to cheer me up after this debacle.
Last week, big TV news. Michael, I know you read the Hollywood Reporter. You still read the print edition. You have it delivered.
I have to. I'm just a devotee of the tabloids, the showbiz tabloid rags. I still get Backstage delivered to me on the daily.
Do you wake up early to read the reviews? Do you just wait?
I read it for the casting calls. For me, it's all about the casting calls. Toyota has a regional that they're casting. I better get over to 33rd and 3rd before 11 to get online.
Oh, I want to meet that Michael Ian Black.
That Michael Ian Black existed.
Yeah,
not so long ago.
That Michael Ian Black. I love with your Sharpie marker and your stack of headshots.
Yeah. What's really, really weird is that Michael will stay up all night at Sardi's to read other people's reviews.
just to gloat.
Yeah. I didn't see the play, but they're right. He's terrible.
It's trash. So yeah, Colbert getting the axe.
So CBS canceled The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, the number one rated show in late night. Mm-hmm. And here is, of course, Mr. Colbert breaking the news on his show.
Before we start the show, I want to let you know something that I found out just last night. Next year will be our last season. The network will be ending The Late Show in May. And yeah, I share your feelings. It's not just the end of our show, but it's the end of The Late Show on CBS. I'm not being replaced. This is all just going away.
Probably, I might add, not a more prophetic statement which could be applied to our entire fucking country. This is all just going away.
Yeah, to be replaced with something. In the case of Colbert, probably steamy syndicated shows from the 90s. Mm-hmm. In the case of The Nation, probably steamy syndicated fascist propaganda from the 30s. It's bad. It's really bad. Now, look, we're all in television. We understand that in some respect, they're correct. Like the late night model is dying. The numbers are continuing to go down. Mm-hmm. It is entirely possible that the show was not making a tremendous amount of money for them. But there's a few things to consider when looking at those shows in particular. The first is, yes, they are there to entertain and get ratings, but they are also there to promote internal vehicles and CBS and Paramount properties. They bring their people on to promote their projects. That creates an enormous amount of free marketing for all of those projects, which they are now just sort of cutting off their nose so that they can curry favor with the Trump administration. Right. And let's be honest, that's what this is. Right. And it's about nothing else. They can spin it however they want. And it is possible that in 10 years, all of those shows are gone. But to do that right now, in this moment, when CBS is trying to get this merger approved with, what are they called, Skydance or some shit?
Skydance.
So they're settling their 60 Minutes bullshit lawsuit, and they're firing Colbert. They're getting their ducks in a row, just, for business, for purely business
specifically, Colbert had referenced that lawsuit I think 3 days earlier. At a week at the most, here it is.
Mm-hmm. Now, I believe that this kind of complicated financial settlement with a sitting government official has a technical name in legal circles. It's big fat bribe. Because this all comes as Paramount's owners are trying to get the Trump administration to approve the sale of our network to a new owner, Skydance.
He never bent the knee to this administration. Right. He has been or to the George W. Bush administration before that. Right. He's been poking them in the eye from the moment Trump entered public life as a politician. He's never wavered. He's never made excuses. He has just, given his opinion. And CBS has every right in the world to fire him for that opinion. Every right in the world to do that. Right. The fact that they're doing it and that they're doing it right now is disgusting. Right. But they have every right to do it. And I suspect Colbert, if he wants, can take his talents elsewhere, hopefully to the United States Senate. When he takes Lindsey Graham's seat.
That's right. Yeah, this is his home state.
Yeah.
Correct? The rest of the press seems utterly, unfortunately, stunned and kind of like, what just happened with this whole Colbert thing? Here's Abby Phillip on CNN.
The reporting is that the likely incoming new owner of CBS was just in to see the FCC chairman this week, and
Shocking.
they also had to give a filing on this. Here's what it says that they discussed. We discussed Skydance's commitment to unbiased journalism and its embrace of diverse viewpoints, principles that will ensure CBS's editorial decision-making reflects the varied ideological perspectives of American viewers.
That's DEI, right?
That's DEI. That is the definition
Yeah.
of DEI.
Yeah.
Let's get some diversity in there.
Yeah.
Let's make sure there's some equity and inclusion in there.
Yeah. Right. Let's
Let's
all
make
the
sure
very
we get some fascists in there. It's not right. The
Are you
whole
doing
news
Paul-
team, there's
are
not
you
a
doing
single
Pauly Shore?
fascist.
Sounds like you're doing Pauly Shore right now.
I don't know who it was, but I sort of liked the character.
Gotta get some fascists.
Got to get some fascists in there. I mean,
Yeah. I mean,
look,
it's absurd.
it is the problem is it's not absurd. The problem is it's all systematic. The problem is this is the authoritarian's playbook. And everybody, all the scholars of authoritarianism before the election said, well, this is what you can look forward to.
Right.
You can look forward to him silencing dissent, going after the press, going after the unions, going after academic institutions. You can look forward to him disentangling ourselves from our traditional allies and maybe retangling ourselves with our non-traditional nations.
Right.
All of this was predicted. And it's happening very, very quickly.
Yeah.
What people, I think, maybe don't see because it hasn't happened yet, and I don't know that it will. I'm not predicting this. But because there's limited violence in the streets to this point, they think, well, it's not fascism, it's not authoritarianism. It's not like people are being rounded up and sent to a concentration camp in Florida. Oh, wait, hold on a second. The last example I gave was actually a bad example. But everything else was apt.
Yeah. We have two clips of Roy appearing on Abby Phillip's show.
Remind me who Roy is?
Roy Wood Jr. is a comedian.
Okay.
He was on The Daily Show for many, many years.
Love that guy.
He hosts a show called I've Got News for You, or
Something like that. Yeah. Love.
What time is news, or something.
Yeah. Sounds very good. I'll check it out.
So he does, so CNN brings him on. He does the rounds of CNN.
Mm-hmm.
But he was on Abby Phillip's Summer Fridays. Roy, as always, as we're our dear friend Roy, kind of really put the whole thing in the Stephen Colbert situation in great perspective.
If you look at the ecosystem of late night, yes, late night as a whole fiscally has been on life support for some years. I would even argue pre-COVID, there was already figuring things out. James Corden leaves, they don't replace him, they put in a cheaper show. And on top of that, it's a show that wasn't even a new idea. It was, After Midnight was based on At Midnight, and even our show is a British remake. People don't like new ideas.
But not everyone was bemoaning this. I think, there was one very special person who was very, very happy.
The president is also celebrating CBS's decision to cancel The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, a major Trump critic. He wrote on Truth Social, quote, "I absolutely love that Colbert got fired. His talent was even less than his ratings. I hear Jimmy Kimmel is next. He has even less talent than Colbert. Greg Gutfeld is better than all of them combined, including the moron on NBC who ruined the once great Tonight Show."
He's just going after all of them now. It doesn't really matter.
I mean, he always has.
I guess. Oh, Gutfeld's show, which I watch.
You watch or you hate watch?
I don't hate watch it. I don't hate watch Fox News when I watch it. I just think I go through in my mind is the person who's talking to me right now believe any of this shit, or is it just? Do they
I can
really
tell you
believe
because
it?
I know Greg.
And
No.
right, he's a libertarian, correct? If anything.
If anything.
Yeah, and he is. I do know this. He was a editor of
Some men's magazine,
Men's
Maxim or
thing, yeah,
something.
Maxim. And before that, they had like a more kind of gears and tech bullshit magazine It was all part of Dennis Publishing, which is a British company. He got fired from that. He wasn't very good at that job.
He's not very good at his current job.
He's not. But he's always fancied himself a comedian.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so that, because I've seen him do stand-up a long time ago, and it was horrible. Or
Yes.
not stand-up, like, yeah, I guess stand-up, emceeing.
Also, it's always problematic when anybody ever fancies themselves a comedian.
Right. You should just be a comedian.
I fancy
not.
myself a comedian.
Yeah. I fancy myself a chef. So I think that he's a fraud in a fraud in a fraud. Like it's just the never ending.
It is a nesting egg of frauds.
It's a nesting egg of fraud. And he knows full well what he's doing. But so I'll watch him. But and I don't hate watching, I just kind of shake my head like I don't even understand what's happening. It is the lamest material I've ever heard anyone, and that goes for the entire group. And I have friends who are on that show.
Who work on that show, you mean? Or who have appeared on
who
that show?
appear on the show.
Okay.
Regularly. Mm-hmm. And I just think to myself, I know you're better than this. But the entire show, the entire premise, the entire universe that they're speaking to just brings everything down to like below pedestrian crap. It's fascinating. So I watch it more from like, what is happening?
You watch it as a sociological
Correct.
experiment.
Right.
I cannot watch it because I guess both because it's terrible. I mean, like legitimately terrible.
You were up for the job originally. Sorry.
I really wish you hadn't brought that up. But no, because it makes it sound like these are just sour grapes for me. But because I know him a little bit, and I know how phony and full of shit he is right now. Yeah. And it is so dispiriting to see somebody who I didn't hold him in particularly high esteem, but I respected him. To see him debase himself in this way for money is just it's like you think to yourself, oh, none of my friends would ever debase themselves in this way just for some money. But no, people do,
look at me,
and they
look at
do
me.
all the time.
Look at me.
Well, you're living the lap of luxury there in Hell's Kitchen in your rent-controlled studio apartment. Is the bathtub in the kitchen, Jim?
Yeah. Problem all of a sudden?
No, I support that.
That's what we call efficiency.
He brushes his teeth in the kitchen sink.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
no, he's not. And by the way, we should be very clear. I know this from reading articles, interviews with him. He's not. He's a smart guy.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's not weird. It's just that he represents a side of humanity that we maybe like to think doesn't exist, but it does.
Right.
It very obviously does.
Right.
And he's case in point. And Trump is also case in point.
We talked about it last week. We talked about the Epstein files. I think I said something like this could go on for 9 months.
I think it was all resolved this week, wasn't it?
No.
They put that whole thing to bed?
No.
It all worked? No?
A couple of few things came up at the end, middle to the end of the week.
Huh. Hadn't heard about it.
I know you heard about the Wall Street Journal.
Well, I know that the Wall Street Journal, newspaper of the business community, published a letter that allegedly came from Donald Trump, a picture in which he has a little cartoon that he dedicated to Jeffrey Epstein, which had some sort of unsavory language in it, alluding to perhaps having sex with young girls. But I don't know. It was enigmatic language, which is why he said, "Have you ever noticed, Jeffrey? Enigmas never age."
That's true. And the phrasing I believe the Wall Street Journal used was that the picture was bawdy. Apparently, Michael, it's England. We live in London, and it's 1543.
Well, Rupert Murdoch owns the Wall Street Journal. He was born in 1543, so it's entirely possible he wrote the article.
Well, here is CNN's Anderson Cooper kind of uncomfortably explaining the article.
Quote, this is from the Wall Street Journal. The letter bearing Trump's name, which was reviewed by the Journal, is bawdy, like others in the album. It contains several lines of typewritten text framed by the outline of a naked woman, which appears to be hand-drawn with a heavy marker. A pair of small arcs denotes the woman's breasts, and the future president's signature is a squiggly Donald below her waist, mimicking pubic hair. The letter concludes, "Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret."
Yeah? What's the problem?
Well, so a couple before we get into the denials about it, because you know there's denials.
I just love to sit here and listen to two guys talk about nudie lady pictures.
Yeah,
Jodi, you know that Jim and I have nothing but the utmost respect for women and respect for you in particular. So I'd love to get your thoughts on this body drawing.
That's good.
From a woman's perspective.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
There. I think you've said a mouthful right there.
I just don't understand the use of a heavy marker.
Right. Well, you know he's got short Vulgarian fingers. But what people don't talk about sometimes is how girthy they are. He's got chode fingers. And because of the chode finger, he's really only able to grasp a Sharpie, to do that, the signature Donald Trump pubic autograph. And when we see, for example, when he marks up weather maps to help us understand where a hurricane is tracking, he does it with a heavy marker.
Yeah. A Sharpie.
Well, I didn't want to give them...
You don't give them advertising?
No. Look.
I don't think it's their fault that this is...
This is very valuable airtime. And if you think I'm just going to toss Sharpie a bone, nah.
Yeah.
Nah.
You're
Now,
a smart man, Michael Black.
If Crayola wants to approach us and be like, hey, we got a new batch of colors, I'm listening.
So here's the denial, also from a very uncomfortable CNN.
Yeah.
Now let me just read to you the president's denial. The Wall Street Journal printed a fake letter, supposedly to Epstein. These are not my words, not the way I talk. Also, I don't draw pictures. I told Rupert Murdoch it was a scam, that he shouldn't print this fake story, but he did, and now I'm going to sue his ass off. And that of his third-rate newspaper, as he likes to sign these days. Thank you for your attention to this matter, ! DJT.
I do like the thank you for your attention to this. It really does feel like my toilet is clogged. Thank you for your attention.
It is a good bit. Like, that's the first bit of his that I actually like. Yeah. Thank you for your attention to this matter. What?
Sir? Yes, sir.
I can't tell if he does it ironically or not, and frankly, I hope not, because it makes it funnier. But even if he's doing it to be funny, I will say that's the first bit of his I have ever found funny.
Yeah.
So let's what would the word? Parse this denial. I like the fact that he says that it's. Let me get it right here. He doesn't draw pictures.
He
which
doesn't
the New
draw
York Times,
pictures. He's never drawn a picture in his life. And if anybody could ever, it seems like if that could be disproved, it would be disproved. But nobody's been able to do it. Why? Because he does not draw pictures.
The New York Times, in fact, found numerous occasions where he did drawings of the Brooklyn Bridge.
Not with a heavy marker, I hope.
Heavy marker as well.
Or heavy marker doodles.
Yeah.
Not signed, I hope.
And they were signed, yeah. What do you think Donald Trump's response to the Wall Street Journal printing this story was?
Well, he said he was going to sue them, but I have a hard time believing he would actually file suit against the Wall Street Journal and Rupert Murdoch, who's done nothing but promote his presidency.
Yeah. He did sue them, and here it is.
Breaking news, just in, President Trump has officially just filed the lawsuit against Dow Jones, the Wall Street Journal, News Corp, Rupert Murdoch, and others over that Wall Street Journal article that dropped last night about the Jeffrey Epstein birthday book. Trump is seeking, and I'm going to say this twice so you understand that I'm quoting the actual number here, $10 billion in this case, $10 billion with a B.
Trump accuses the defendants of defamation, saying they acted with malicious intent.
I don't want people to associate, because we haven't seen any evidence other than the fact that he was best friends with Jeffrey Epstein for 15 years, and Trump has said that he's a genius and that he knows everything, but somehow he did not know that his best friend was operating the nation's largest sex trafficking syndicate. There's no evidence to tie him to this at all. And so the last thing I want is for people to associate the good name of Donald Trump with pedophilia, which is having sex with underage people. I don't want people to think that.
No,
especially because, and especially because Trump himself is in an awkward position, because he's the guy that used to run a beauty contest for teenagers, and then he talked on Howard Stern about how he sometimes would walk in on them naked. Now, you and I, Jim and Jodi, we understand that that's innocent, that he's the owner of the beauty contest, he's making sure everything's okay. But when people start associating those two words, Trump and pedophilia, they're going to start thinking, oh my gosh, maybe he was going into that dressing room to look at naked teenage girls for reasons other than he stated. And I would
other
hate
than managerial, other than administrative.
Managerial capacity. As any responsible business owner would do.
Of course. It's the merchandise. I think I do like the fact that he's really become Dr. Evil in his the numbers he's selling. You know, he's $10 billion. Like, it's just a crazy number. And from my understanding, the Wall Street Journal is just like, okay. I mean, and he's constantly getting these crazy things dismissed, of course, except when he's not, but at greatly reduced rates. I think he originally started the CBS lawsuit, which we'll get to later, at $20 billion. $20 billion.
Like that. Sure. Because he didn't like the way they edited an interview.
Correct.
He didn't like
it. Turned out to be nothing. But I will say this is a very fascinating, where, like all things with Donald Trump, very much in the middle of a historical inflection point. There's something very unusual about this lawsuit.
Is there?
You want me to?
But doesn't it all feel? We should say this is all incredibly unusual. I mean, it feels.
You think it's unusual for a sitting president of the United States to sue one of the major newspapers in this country for reporting that president was involved, perhaps, in pedophilia? You feel like that's unusual? Have you never read a presidential biography, Jodi?
Here we go.
It's the first time a sitting president has filed a lawsuit against a news outlet for a story he doesn't like. All of Trump's past lawsuits against CBS and ABC and Meta and X, all those past lawsuits, Bob Woodward, which was dismissed today, those were all filed before he took office again. They were all filed when he was still a private citizen.
I like how Brian Stetler laughs in the middle of it, because it is fucking ridiculous. He goes, Bob Woodward was dismissed. Like, at this point, that's all you can do is like, he's crazy. So this is all going around. He's suing them for $10 billion. It's a big story at the end of last week.
No, I'm sorry to interrupt, because I don't want to move past this. I am not a lawyer, although I did play a bowling alley manager on a television show about a lawyer. So I do have some legal expertise.
That was Ed?
That was called Ed on NBC. Now, my understanding is that when you sue somebody, there's a process called discovery in which lawyers get to depose witnesses. Trump would then be deposed, and I'm imagining there's going to be a lot of questions under oath about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein.
You're 100% correct, and it kind of feels like, why would you do that? Because if there's anything...
Because he's innocent.
Exactly. But I mean, I guess people are bringing that up, but most people are focused on, I sure hope the Wall Street Journal's got it all buttoned up. Here's Smirkanish from CNN with Ellie Honig, their in-house legal eagle.
Ellie, I have read this journal story probably 10 times, line by line by line. And the wording of it is so curious to me and so obviously lawyered. But let me just read a few things aloud. Just documents reviewed by the Wall Street Journal. Pages, according to people who've reviewed the pages. The letter bearing Trump's name, which was reviewed by the Journal. Like, they're very careful as to exactly how they phrase it. But in the end, they don't publish the letter. What do you make of it?
So my lawyer radar was, I think, going off the same as yours. As I read that article, I kept thinking, this is the Wall Street Journal and Rupert Murdoch saying, bring it on.
Right. I hadn't read the article. I've read about the article, but I don't subscribe to that third-rate newspaper, the Wall Street Journal. And I guess I didn't realize that there was no photograph of the letter itself.
No.
And so what that indicates to me is exactly what they just said, that they're waiting for the lawsuit so that they can then publish the letter.
Right. My guess is also they're protecting their source by not publishing, by not reprinting the letter in its, in some form.
Why would you want to protect anybody who is in possession of the Ghislaine Maxwell 50th birthday celebration photo album of Jeffrey Epstein? Why do we need to protect that source? I understand journalistic ethics and what have you, but it seems to me...
because I have a feeling it's coming from the department, someone at the Department of Justice. It is one of the things that doesn't exist in the files that don't exist. That is one of these things. And I think that's where it came from. It came from... pretty sure it was leaked from the Department of Justice, which is why that's why he's even more furious about it.
Oh, that's interesting and so much smarter than anything I was thinking.
I mean, that's
what you heard somewhere, because I'm not going to give you credit for having an original thought. That's the last thing I want to do.
I hear you. Oh, I hear you. Sorry, Jodi. What
it's not good. I mean, the whole thing is just... I mean, jokes aside for a second, the President of the United States is closely associated and aligned with the most notorious sex trafficker in American history.
So, he's still the President of the United States. He's got a lot of other stuff going on. Obviously, the world is on fire. Do you happen to know what first order of business after he kind of moved off of the $10 billion lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal? Do you know what his first order of business was? If he was actually putting the nation's business first,
the first order of business would be to revoke Rosie O'Donnell's citizenship.
That's one. He did that.
Okay, good. So he
threatened to.
Well, but he's going to do it. Hopefully he's going to do it. And then secondly, I hope he's going after Obama for all of Obama's crimes.
Well, there's that, but this is a different one.
Oh, well, third on my list is ending the war in Ukraine, which thank God he did.
Close. Here it is.
Selena, in other news now to Washington. Tell us about President Trump's demand that the Washington Commanders change the team name.
That's right, Lindsay. President Trump says he won't make a deal for the football team stadium to be built if they don't change their name back to the Washington Redskins, calling the name change ridiculous. The team dropped the name Redskins in 2020 after decades of criticism from Native American groups who called it racist and derogatory.
I'm sorry, I pushed the wrong button. We did have a Ukraine end the war in Ukraine clip, but apparently,
but that is also very, very important. That is also very, very important business. We got to get these football teams to get racist again. Why can't why is football so woke?
I think we all can agree that $10 billion lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal. Getting all up in arms about the Washington Redskins versus the Commanders. Is that their new name?
Commanders, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the Commanders, Jim.
The Commanders. Thanks. Do you think these distractions are working?
Yes.
We went and checked on your favorite horse race announcer, Harry Enton.
Mm-hmm. I'm a big Terry Enton. Oh, Harry Enton.
No, Harry Enton.
Harry Enton, yeah.
Did I say Harry Enton?
You like his sister, Terry Henton, too.
Terry Henton is also, she's wonderful. Here we go.
Interest in the Epstein files and the Epstein case is sky high, and the American public does not trust what the government is selling them. What are we talking about here? Is the government hiding Epstein's alleged client list? Get this, 69% of Americans agree that the federal government is, in fact, hiding Epstein's alleged client list versus just 6% who say that they are not. And get this, a majority of Republicans and Democrats do, in fact, agree on this issue that the government is hiding Epstein's alleged client list. You can never get a majority of Republicans and Democrats to agree on anything, but they do agree on this particular issue.
69, nice. Yeah. Nobody believes him. Nobody believes him. My guest this week is humorist, writer, and host of Judge John Hodgman, which is exactly, by the way, what I'm about to do. John Hodgman, welcome to Have I Got News for Your Ears?
Thank you so much, Michael. And look, I don't know when people are listening to this, but by my watch, it is 11:11 in the morning, Eastern time zone. 11:11 is when I make a wish. Stand by while I make my wish. Okay. I did it.
I'm not going to ask you what your wish was, but I'm assuming it involves your prostate. Writer, humorist, podcaster, right? This is the beginning of the question. In which order would you like these? Would you put these to best describe you? But then I'm gonna. But here, okay. I see. I already see you shaking your head.
Yeah,
but
I do that for podcast purposes. No one can hear me shake my head.
But people can see you. We are recording this video as well, and you look tremendous. Humorist, is that a word you would ever use to describe yourself?
I have to.
Now, when you say humorist, what's the difference in your mind between that and comedian?
Less funny.
Fair enough. All right. So writer, humorist, podcaster, in which order would you put those to best describe you?
You know, it's a challenge to me. I've never been able to describe my job because I have a lot of different jobs. And throughout my adulthood, I've always enjoyed having different jobs. I've done my imitation of stand-up comedy for sure. I was on The Daily Show for a while. I've written several books. Vacation Land and Medallion Status are available in paperback now. I do host the Judge John Hodgman podcast, as well as a new podcast on the Maximum Fun Network called E Pluribus Motto. I can't do one thing.
None of those sound like they pay very much money.
Well, let me shoot over my bank account to you. And you can, I wouldn't mind. Honestly, I'm due for an audit. But yeah, no, I say humorist, and when I say, I started out writing written comedy for McSweeney's. And yeah, that's real humorism in the sense of like a written humorist is someone who elicits wry smiles and maybe an uplifted eyebrow and will inward chuckle. A comedian really is obliged to produce vocal laughter. And I have done it. But it's not where I live, I would say, naturally. I'm a little bit too only child inward to really bring the big laughs. So.
Okay, so I'm going to contradict you here because you have made me laugh out loud many times, and I've never even seen your pathetic attempts at stand-up comedy. Just your natural being elicits a firm chuckles from me.
Yeah, I had a stand-up special on Netflix.
I know.
10 years ago called Ragnarok, but you can't find it there anymore because I guess...
Are they ashamed of it?
They took it away. I presume they were running out of hard drive space. They had to free up some space. But I didn't even get a tax credit out of it. It's just been vaulted for no reason. But
terrible.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, Michael, you have made me laugh out loud so many times.
Well, I'm not a humorist. I'm an outright comedian.
You are a genuine comedian.
Yes, I am.
I remember when I was a youth, my friend Christine Connor said, "Hey, I got tickets to taping of The State. Do you want to come see it?" This was in the 1990s. Mm-hmm. And I had seen the show a few times and I liked it. And in particular, there was one cast member who was on my mind. And that cast member, I think, did like the pre-show sort of warm-up or like welcome. And a strange person to choose to do the warm-up because he's really kind of a cold down guy. His name's Michael Ian Black. One of the funniest people I'd ever seen on TV and then in person. And I just remember sitting in that studio going like, God, I hate that guy. He's so funny.
But this isn't about me. It's about you, John. You mentioned that you began by starting from McSweeney's. Is that what led to the Daily Show audition?
Indirectly. I was at the tail end of a 7-year stint working at a literary agency in New York because I came to New York thinking I wanted to write short stories about deep feelings and epiphanies and so forth. And unfortunately, people were laughing at my short stories because they were inadvertently funny.
Well, you're a humorist.
I didn't realize that I had written a funny short story till I read it out loud at a reading, and people were really laughing. And I was like, oh. And then I started writing for magazines when I left that job. And my editor, Mark Adams, was like, why aren't you funny in any of your writing for our magazine? I was writing for Men's Journal magazine at the time, which of course is the premier journal of men writing about their everyday lives in journals. And I said, what? And he said, you should be funny. I'm like, well, it just seems like easy. He's like, well, it's not easy. Like, most people aren't funny. I'm trying to be profound here when I write about cheese or, toe socks or whatever I was writing about for Men's Journal. Like, no, not everyone can do it. You should do it. And that's when I started soliciting or submitting things to McSweeney's, which was Dave Eggers's literary and humor journal. The online component was particularly humor, funny stuff. From there, I wrote a book called The Areas of My Expertise, which was similarly in the voice of an authoritative white guy who was out of his mind. And I loved books of trivia, so I wrote a big book of historical and cultural trivia, but all the trivia was made up and absurd. And it was like, the 9 U.S. presidents who had hooks for hands. And I, at the time, was approached by the executive producer of The Daily Show. We had a friend in common, Sarah Vowell. Mm-hmm. And he said, do you think you'd ever want to be on the show as a guest? And I said, oh, of course. And then I never thought of it again because I didn't want to seem too eager or presumptuous.
Yes.
And then I went to do a reading of my first book, The Areas of My Expertise. It was winter. There were 9 or 10 people in parkas. Like, they weren't even committed to staying for the whole thing. And it was a pretty miserable experience. And I just wrote the EP again, Ben Carlin. I said, look, I may have played it a little too cool when you asked me if I would ever consider being a guest. I mean, I know that you got a show to run and everything, so do whatever you want to do. But the answer is yes. Please put me on TV.
How did that lead to just becoming, they just liked you, I guess. They
were
just like,
so I was a guest on the show.
Yeah.
I was a guest on the show in November, now 20 years ago. Flew back to book tour, resumed in Seattle, and suddenly 350 people were there. It was a profound change of life. And then a few weeks after that, they invited me to come back and pitch some ideas for being on the show. And I suggested, why don't I be the resident expert, the white, tweedy, professorial, know-it-all nerd who could come in and comment on anything.
And you do seem particularly well cast to be the professorial nerd in tweed.
Well, I do have a bachelor's degree. But yes, no, I've always loved like really dry humor, like Peter Cook and Stephen Fry for that matter. And that kind of officious, like, I know everything, but I'm saying insane things. Like, a classic bit on The Daily Show would have been when we were talking about the economy. And I would say, well, they don't call economics the dismal science for nothing. Now, that's a real fact. They do call it the dismal science. And he said, yeah, because it's very hard-hearted. And I'm like, no, it was named after a guy named Sir Eustace Dismal, an economist in the Industrial Revolution in England, who was the first to suggest making smokestacks out of children. So to answer your question, that was the line that put me rather implausibly on television.
Do you come from an intellectual family? Do you come from a literary family? What's your background like?
I grew up in Brookline, Massachusetts, which is a pretty affluent suburb of Boston, in the intellectual end of the Massachusetts experience. Mm-hmm. And I watched a lot of public television with my mom and dad.
What were their occupations?
So my mom, who's no longer alive, was an RN, a nurse. Mm-hmm. And a nurse administrator at Beth Israel Hospital for years and years. And my dad was in business. And I've had to literally memorize. My understanding of business in general is so poor that I had to phonetically memorize what his final job was, which was he was the president of a publicly funded investment corporation called the Massachusetts Technological Development Corporation, where he directed public funds to be invested into emerging technology companies in Massachusetts. Now I come out of the fugue state. I don't even know what I just said.
It sounds to me like your dad headed up a CIA-funded front group.
It does sound like, it's like, oh, my father is a businessman. Sounds very suspicious. But both of my parents came from working class backgrounds. So my dad grew up in Fitchburg, Massachusetts. His dad worked in the paper mill. His mom was a homemaker.
Do you know what I want to? I'm going to use your story as a kind of aside because I think it's beautiful. Your grandparents, your whole family for 3 generations so far has worked in some capacity in literature.
Paper.
In paper. And in 3 generations, you went from your grandfather working in the paper mill to you writing best-selling books and interviewing or quizzing the first black president of the United States, and doing a trivia test with him. And there's just something really lovely, I think, about that 3-generation arc. And it speaks to that this would have been the time when America itself was sort of expanding in its most glorious form.
My grandparents had an enormously wonderful, high quality of life. And we all deserve that amount of economic and social dignity that allows you to lead the life of happiness. You know, it's like, I don't mean to get weepy here, but this is why I'm a humorist, not a comedian. But like, it's written into our founding documents. Like, we're here for the pursuit of happiness and not the pursuit of power or wealth or dominance or money, like the pursuit of happiness. And if you take happiness from money, I get it. It's a lot easier to be happy with some money, but it doesn't need to be that.
Can we talk about that Obama moment for a minute? Just because what a bizarre situation to find yourself in. Can you give us the background of that?
So, you know, in 2009, which is not 20 years ago, but soon will be, I was invited to be the quote-unquote comedian at the Radio and Television Correspondents Awards dinner. And it was very, very hard to think of like what I would say comedically, because the previous year, Stephen Colbert, who recently was fired, finally, Stephen Colbert hosted the White House Correspondents' Dinner in the last year of the George W. Bush presidency. And he had a lot to say. So I had to think for a long time about whether there was any point of view that I could bring to this. And I was like, immediately I was like, are you really a nerd? Because
right, you've got an opportunity to ask the president of the United States pretty much anything, and what you're gonna choose to do is check his nerd credentials.
Yeah, are you a nerd or are you lying? He was the first presidential candidate in my memory who was dropping references in press opportunities to dilithium crystals, which is, of course, that's how the Starship Enterprise is powered.
Of course.
And the fact that Superman's Kryptonian father is Jor-El. And he was also embracing technology in a very nerdy way compared to his opponent in the 2008 election, John McCain, who openly is like, I carry a lucky feather with me. To me, that identified what was then a big schism in American culture that has been with us forever, but was really coming to a head in this election, which was jock versus nerd. And jockism has its place in our culture, for sure. I have no place in it. I'm a wheezy, asthmatic weirdo. But, you know, that kind of like teamwork, gut decision-making, like deep emotional motivation, right? And split-second decision-making, as opposed to over-worrying and analyzing data. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of data analysis that goes on in contemporary sports management, but in the traditional jock sense, it's like spirit. Whereas nerdism is about analysis, you know, cool, calm, collected brain work, and knowing dumb stuff about dilithium crystals or whatever. And we knew that Obama was extremely cool dude. We knew that he could not bowl, but he did play sports, you know. and obviously knew a lot about sports. But at the same time, he was repping this nerd stuff, and compared to McCain, and I think compared to anyone, a real high-level thinker.
Yeah.
And I was like, is this, not that I truly believed that Obama was pretending to be a nerd for nerd votes. Particularly in the 2000s, nerd culture hadn't taken over everything at that point. You know, I mean, my way in was to whatever you want to call my talk was like, who are you? Like, what are you even from this planet? Like, you say you read Conan comic books, but have you chosen a church in which to worship Crom yet? Crom being the deity from the Conan
I used
universe.
context clues to put that together.
Yeah, but thank you. You're very smart. But what was so amazing about it was that, you know, I ended up saying, I don't know who you are, but we have to go forward together. And so I will quote the scripture when I say, you have been and shall always be my friend. And which is from Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. And I flashed the Vulcan salute and he threw it right back at me, which was one of the greatest moments of my life. But what it was like to meet the president is unknown to me because my brain shut off. I mean, we shook hands on the dais. He said some nice words to me. It was like Charlie Brown teacher language. Blah, 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 blah. Like I have no memory of it.
Now that nerd culture has kind of won out in a lot of ways, although the Trump administration is doing making a very valiant effort to eradicate that. Do you resent the ascendancy of nerd culture? Does it feel like you've lost something precious?
With the ascendancy of nerd culture, and we're not just talking about the dominance of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which I'd be happy to talk about for a long time.
No, thanks.
Well, I mean, it was fun for a while, and then it became a little oppressive. And similarly, you know, with the rise of tech, a traditionally nerd field, and the nerds running tech, Bezos, Zuckerberg, and Elon, you know, it's become very, very destabilizing, particularly as the highest nerds in Silicon Valley have basically decided that democracy is an outdated software that needs to be replaced with cryptocurrency and utopian islands off the coast of Costa Rica where there are no laws and there's no government regulation. And it's this weird, you know, nerd libertarian utopianism. So yeah, I do resent the triumph, indeed the revenge of the nerds, because I do think that it's actually ended up being a lot worse than if we just had our country run by jocks for a while.
Well, the country is currently being run by jocks with their crypto libertarian helpmates. Yeah. And so we will see how that experiment plays out. And so far, the results are not looking promising.
If only we had run this experiment once before.
Right.
To see how it played out.
But we
might have avoided this.
But then we only have a sample size of one, John, and we need multiple sample sizes to make
I don't want to
sure
hear about your sample sizes.
that this is as horrible as
sample my size, nerd.
And there is no better way to conclude our interview than a genius riposte like that.
Les bons mots encore de John Hodgman.
I don't know what you're doing there.
This is why
John Hodgman, thank you
such
for
a hidden
being
Mauritius
on Have I Got News for Your Ears. We look forward to welcoming you back to the mothership. Have I Got News for You sometime, hopefully this season or next.
Again. Boy, oh boy. What a great show, by the way.
Thanks. And you're terrific when you appear on it. So.
Hey, gosh, thank you. Also, I'm the host of the Judge John Hodgman podcast Wednesdays on MaximumFun.org, where you can also listen to E Pluribus Motto, my new podcast with Janet Varney, where we take a road trip for your ears through all of the states, unions, and territories of these, for now, United States, talking about their weird mottos and state birds and state mammals and state monsters.
That actually sounds delicious. Give me a little factoid.
Do you know what the state beverage of Kentucky is? Kentucky.
Bourbon.
You would think. It's deplorably milk. There are about 33 states and commonwealths that have an official state beverage, and of them, 22 or so are milk. The dairy lobby is very, very powerful.
John Hodgman, thank you so much.
Thank you. Such a pleasure to talk to you as always.
Yeah, be well.
I'll be as okay as possible, and you do too.
I'm Michael Ian Black. This has been Have I Got News for Your Ears. Special thanks to my guest, John Hodgman, and to my lovely assistants, Jim Biederman and Jodi Lennon, and to my favorite assistant of all, you, the listener. On the next Have I Got News for Your Ears, I'll be joined by a very funny comedian and writer and two-time Have I Got News for You guest, the hilarious Jenny Hagel. Have I Got News for Your Ears releases new episodes every Wednesday wherever you find your podcasts.